Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. I had a video request to show either me doing my makeup and describing what brushes I use, or just showing what brushes I use for each application. I thought it was a very awesome video request. So without further ado, I am going to show the brushes that I use and tell you what I use them for. You do not have to use these particular brushes. I use different brushes every week. When I do my shop my stash videos, I wash my brushes that I've used for the week and I pick out new brushes. Why? Because I'm a brush hoarder. I have so many brushes that if I didn't, it wouldn't make any sense. So I use different brushes each week, but I use the same type of brush is the way I want to put it. It's a different brush by a different company, but it is still the same type of brush that I use for each application. So let's get started. I'm going to start in the order that I do my face, which will help people out. First of all, covering any spots, concealing, covering any spots. I use an orange corrector, and then I use a regular color corrector. For that, I use a flat top brush, and you will see makeup and stuff on these because I have used these brushes this week. These are my brushes for this week. This is the brush I use to cover any spots. If you can see, you'll see some orange there, and then I use a darker concealer on top of the orange to cover any spots. And this is just a regular, I think I got this from Walgreens because it was cute, just a regular flat top type brush, and that's what I use to start off with to conceal any spots. I just go through with the orange corrector, and then I go back over it with a regular concealer, and I conceal any spots before I apply my foundation. Okay, the next brush is the brush that I apply my foundation with, and it's always a kind of kabuki flat top brush. I love these type of brushes to apply my foundation. It's always a flat top or round top kabuki brush. I use liquid foundations. I put them on first, and the reason why I love these brushes is because after I put my foundation on, I go back and I pat my foundation into my face. I know a lot of people do that with the Beauty Blender. I don't like to. Do you, boo? I take this flat top brush and I press it in. That's just what I do. I've tried it with the Beauty Blender before, and I feel like when I'm getting ready for work or when I need to get things done, this is a better application for me. If I'm taking my time and I have time to go through my face with a Beauty Blender, I will. But this is what I use every day. Apply my foundation, and then I press it in the mirror. Looking in the mirror, I just make sure I press it all in. That's for foundation. The next thing I do after my foundation is I do my under eye highlight. That is done with a Beauty Blender. I put my under eye concealer, whatever you're going to use for your under eye highlight on. I spray this Beauty Blender, and I love it because I can get this tip right up under there and press that concealer in. I have a few of these. Sometimes I use the Real Techniques one, as you can see here, the pointy part. Love that point to get right up in there for my concealer and get it pressed in. Okay, now the powder, putting the powder under here. The first thing I do is I have these little sponges here that I've been using this week, and I take a loose press powder and press it under there first. Okay, this gets right up under there. It's really awesome. It gets right up under there. So I take one of these bad boys and I do that first. And then I take a round top brush, any brush I have that looks like this. And whatever powder I'm going to set that with, besides my translucent powder, I always use two powders under my eyes. I use this brush, and I go right up under there. Even if I'm using, sometimes I use a bronzer. If you're taking pictures, you want to use a bronzer, not a glittery bronzer, a regular bronzer. I don't think I have one out to show you, but you want to use like this MAC bronzer here. Oh my god, I haven't even used this yet, y'all. This need to go in the shop my stash for next week. Like, seriously, look at that. Oh yeah, see how this is like a bronzer, but it's not. And I'm gonna leave this out because this needs to go in my shop my stash for next week. That's ridiculous. You need to use if you're taking pictures, after you set your under eye highlight, you need to use a bronzer. Because it'll keep the flashback. It'll keep you from having ghosts under your eyes. But any flat top brush I have is what I'm going to use to do that part. Okay? My contour. If I'm doing a liquid contour, I'll put it there. And then, as you can see, I'll use another flat top brush to do my liquid contour. And I love to use it at this angle. And sometimes I'll pat it and blend out my contour. Love to blend out my contour with this type of brush. Okay? Now, if I'm doing a powder contour only, I'll use one of these brushes. If you don't have one of these, this is the e.l.f. contouring brush. I'm testing that out this week. I do have like 2 more of these by other companies. And I'll use one of these brushes if I'm just doing a powder contour. Just straight powder contour. Love these brushes for that. To go over my powder contour, okay? Whatever powder, my Anastasia palette, whatever powder I'm going to go over my contour with, even if I'm going to put a bronzer over my contour, I love to use an angled brush. Now, this brush came from TJ Maxx. I don't care for double-ended brushes at all. And then this one, as you can see, if you can see the little hairs, it's shedding like crazy. So I don't know if I'm going to keep this brush. And I don't even know who it's by. But anyways, an angle. Any type of angled brush gets me right in there with my contour. Gets me right in there. So that's the other part of the brush that I'm using this week. Okay, so my face powder. The first face powder that I use. First face powder that I use, I usually use another flat top brush. This week I am testing out the e.l.f. blending brush. Absolutely love it. I mean, it gets that powder in there. And I mean, I blend. Blend that powder, blend that powder. Don't be afraid you're going to move your makeup around. Blend that powder. So these two are what I use for my powders. Usually a flat top. Love this blending. This is a new brush. You've seen a video on this by e.l.f. Love, love, love. I love these flat top brushes because I can put it in my powder and actually press. Sometimes I press my powder into my face. So that's just what I use. And these are the two I'm using this week. Now, for my blush, if you're using a little palette like I'm using this week, you're going to need a tiny brush. So I'm using this one, not sure where I got it from, but just any type of tiny brush so I can get right in that blush. See how I can get right in that little blush? I already have some on. Right in there and get that blush on. If you're using a regular blush, a MAC blush, a regular blush, then I use a fatter. It's still slender all the way around, but it's fatter. So it can get in your regular blushes. So these are usually the type of brushes I use for blush, with just a fatter, wider top, just like that, to get my blush in. Now, highlight. I'm using a little palette for the highlight. So I'm using another little brush to get right in my highlight. It'll get right in that highlight. My mirror's up here. I can get right in that highlight with this brush. Okay? Normally, my highlights are bigger and I use a fan brush. You know, it's very, very easy to get that highlight in with a fan brush. So normally this, but sometimes you have to improvise, which this week is the 3 items that I'm using this week. So when you're doing that, you have to improvise. Okay. I'm not going to say there's not a particular brush to use for certain things, because some brushes are labeled for certain things and they do work absolutely well. I got a problem with following rules. I do what makes me look good and make me feel good. So like I said, if you don't want to do this, or if you use different brushes, or if you use beauty blenders for everything, keep doing that. It's absolutely perfectly fine. Nobody's going to die. It's perfectly fine. Last but not least, I always set my face with a loose powder. Always, 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 always. Because I'm super oily, you will notice I use a lot of powders. I think I do about 3 powders in my entire application a day. I always use a fat kabuki brush, I guess. I don't know. Let me see what other brushes I have here. Did I use to set my powder? Not this one. Hold on, y'all. Y'all have to get up. my brush stand. Okay, so yeah, any type of fat top brush is what I use to set my loose powder. Okay, so if you have any questions, like I said, this was a requested video and I was very happy to do it for. And if you have any questions, put them down below and I'll definitely answer back. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you the next time we play in our makeup.